The Charlotte Hornets win again against the Detroit Pistons, but we have some bad news regarding our first-round draft pick. We'll talk about it all today on Locked On Hornets.
We're Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods. That includes YouTube. Well, we're getting a little froggy on this pod. We're going live again. Second time. How about that, baby? Topo to everybody. Top the nighto to you, I guess, because it's the second time we're doing an instant recap. We did a recap after the Knicks victory. Now we're doing a live recap. I like the finger guns that you had. That was a little jazzy finger guns from Doug. He's feeling it after the win. The problem is, Doug, even if they win 113 to 103, it still feels like we can't have nice things. We have talked about it a lot, okay? It's become the Locked On LaMelo podcast, especially with all of the injuries and the Hornets not playing for postseason berths. And we could, focus on Terry for some hot games. Kelly Oubre, explosive performances off of the bench. But then when LaMelo went down for good, we shifted our focus to Mark Williams, who already had some of that with LaMelo on the court. Then we shifted our focus all the way to the first-round pick in Mark Williams. Well, Mark Williams dislocates his thumb, gets it fixed by Joe Sharp, the trainer. Mark looked to be in real pain immediately on that transition alley-oop opportunity. I believe it was an alley-oop opportunity. Mm-hmm. And then goes back up, gets hurt, shoots 2 free throws, misses both of them, shaking his thumb the whole time. Comes back in after he leaves the game, right? So finally there's a dead ball because he has to play a couple possessions.
Yep.
Is not feeling it. Has to go to the bench.
Oh, he's feeling it. Oh, he was feeling
he's
it.
Feeling the pain. He's feeling the pain. He goes to the locker room. He comes back out, gives it a go. Isn't working for him. Hits the bench once again, and then would not play the rest of the game. I mean, it's ridiculous, Doug. That's not fun. That's not fun anymore. I don't want any more Hornets players that I like to get hurt and miss significant time. I don't want that to happen anymore.
Yeah, I don't know what we did to deserve this. Certainly the fans don't deserve this. I don't know what, even MJ, I don't know what MJ did to deserve this. I don't know what anyone did to deserve this kind of season. It is exasperating at this point, the number of injuries that they've sustained. Some of them I think you can trace back to bringing guys back too early, but also some of them like this one was a little bit of a freak injury. Although I will say, you mentioned that this was on an alley-oop opportunity. We should say it was on a little bit of an awkward alley-oop opportunity.
Oh, hell yeah,
it was awkward, and it was delivered by Terry Rozier. So one has to wonder, hey, if you're starting a legitimate point guard that can deliver the ball a little bit more on target, if LaMelo's healthy, do those kind of injuries happen? When you play guys out of position, sometimes it results in them getting hurt, but it can also result in other guys getting hurt because, everything is about rhythm. Everything is about doing things over and over again so that, you're not caught in those awkward positions, because when you're caught up in the air in an awkward position, sometimes it can lead to freak injuries. So I think we can't discount that as well. But yeah, when I was surprised that Mark was going to come back, because there was a little frame that you could pause on and see, and Eric mentioned it during the broadcast too, and they had a closer look at it, that his thumb was not where it was supposed to be. Like, it was not pointing in the right direction. And so he comes back with this, I don't think it was a cast, but it was a pretty significant wrap on. And just from the first play that he was back, it didn't look like he could use the hand at all. And Duren was able to get a couple of buckets on him. He wasn't getting back down the court very quickly. It seemed to be affecting his whole vibe. And I think they did the right thing at half by just pulling him and saying, all right, enough.
Well, and so just to be clear, by the way, they called it a right thumb sprain on their Hornets PR account on Twitter. So Just wanted to get that correct before I said dislocated and kept going with it. They put out there that he left in the first half with a right thumb sprain. So just to clear that up. And you're right. I mean, especially if you're a shot blocker and you're right-handed, it probably would deter you from throwing your hands up there and trying to protect the rim as much as Mark Williams would do that. I did think it was funny, though. 11 minutes, 4 rebounds. That's one more than he got in 28 minutes against the Knicks the previous game. And so it's the third time. It's the third time against the Pistons too, where we could not really see the Mark Williams, Jalen Duren battle. Just we're denied it once again. And so we got some time here, but I mean, Mark got hurt in the first quarter of this game, and we didn't really get to see that matchup. And perhaps we got to see a couple possessions. I know Jalen Duren took it to Mark when he did get hurt, and Jalen, the more physical player right now for sure anyway. But we didn't get to really see a battle. The last time they played, Jalen Duren was hurt. It was a James Wiseman, Mark Williams battle, which was also very fun. And then it was before that was one of the games where Mark Williams did not play and Nick Richards was thrown in there when Richards was being thrown in the rotation, every like 7, 8, 9 games, something like that. So we are still denied a legitimate, real Mark Williams, Jalen Duren battle.
And to be fair, I don't think it would have meant really anything. I mean, I think these two guys are going to have plenty of opportunities to go at each other. I'll take that back. I don't know that that's a guarantee because Jalen Duren, is in an interesting situation in Detroit where he's battling with Wiseman and Bagley for time. So I don't know. Jalen Duren might not be the starting center for Detroit next season. It's going to be touch and go because look, I mean, the fact is they traded for Wiseman. Wiseman's playing well. He got one over really on Mark Williams in that last battle and looked to repeat that performance a little bit. I mean, he had a good one in this one, 16 and 13 did Wiseman on 8 of 12 shooting, but a lot of that not against Mark Williams. So yeah, we're denied it. And I think the big question is now, what comes after this is Mark, how a thumb sprain, how big of a deal is that? Is that something that, all right, you're going to be pain management, but it's not really affecting the way he plays? Because here's the thing, Walker, honestly, I've seen a lot from Mark. I've seen what I'm going to see. I think it would be great for him to get more experience, obviously, but I don't want to see him out there with another hand wrap. To me, that was ridiculous. Like I get he probably wanted to play and he probably said, look, I'm good to go. So I get it, but I'm glad they pulled him, and I don't want to see him out there with another wrap on.
But both things can be true. Healthy Mark Williams should be playing every second that he's willing to, and that Steve Clifford can bring him out there. Healthy Mark Williams right now, even without a play-in position, play him every single second he can go. We're at 15 games left in the season or so. If he's hurt, we don't need to see him because we already have enough of a foundation where we're good. And if he gets healthier, fine. But this is nothing to mess with. Like there's no reason to push the pain threshold here with Mark Williams, given the circumstances of the season.
Not if you're going to keep starting Terry Rozier at point guard. And I'm not. That's not me insulting Terry Rozier. I'm saying that like if LaMelo Ball was healthy. And then it was sort of, maybe like 70-30 that Mark could go and he wanted to give it a go and play hurt a little bit, then I'd go, okay, that's fine. You're building a relationship with LaMelo Ball who can deliver passes on target, and you're developing a relationship that's going to be very important to the franchise moving forward. But what really is to gain by him playing hurt and possibly, someone hits that hand or he hits it on a backboard or he hits it on a block shot weird and just further exacerbates that injury. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But hopefully, I think all of us hope that, hey, they go back, they look at it, they're able to manage it. Maybe he misses a game or two and he's able to get back out there because, look, experience for him matters right now.
Yeah, experience the best teacher. I'm hoping to see that a little bit more. By the way, I'm going to be a teacher tomorrow, as I mentioned. Big shout to Charlotte Sports Despair writing in, who said, yeah, you know what? Tell those kids to make the Locked On Hornets pod whenever we're old and gray and we're done with this thing, because it builds character to undergo this type of pain with the Charlotte Hornets.
I think the best thing, if you want to be a great teacher, I think you should dislocate the thumb of a child and really give them an example. Show them how to play through the pain. You should dislocate one of their thumbs.
All right, let's go to some of the comments that we have here on the live chat. What kind of comments do we have before we go to the next segment? Doug Branson.
Noah says the NBA needs to have end-of-season franchise report cards like the NFL. Our medical staff might have a few things come to light after this season. Conspiracy. Noah putting on the tinfoil. I mean, this was a freak thing. I don't think that you're going to really uncover anything on this particular injury. Bobby says, Topo, back-to-back live post-game pods. Thank you. Vonda saying, have some live shows in the daytime, please. We're trying, Vonda. We're trying.
Actually, I do host a live show in the daytime. It's on WFNZ. I'm too busy doing that.
JC, here's a good lead into our next segment. JC, the visualizer, is saying, Kai Jones looked decent tonight. I also thought Thor did well. Also, Blake saying Kai stocks going up, and I think that's what we got to talk about next. Who stepped up in Mark Williams' absence to help get this win over the Pistons?
Yeah, Kai Jones, JT Thor, 18 combined minutes. Even Nick Richards, 29 minutes off of the bench, going perfect from the field. So we'll talk a little bit more about that coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Interesting stat I want to point out about PJ Washington continuing to play well. Kelly Oubre was awesome in this game, hitting a bunch of shots, getting to the foul line too. And then we will discuss the bench, as we just mentioned, a couple of players right there. Not before I talk about BetterHelp, though. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. It's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. BetterHelp can help you through therapy. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. And all you have to do is just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. And you can even switch therapist anytime for no additional charge if you deem that is the right move for you. Discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Couple more segments to go. Locked On Hornets
is Locked On Hornets.
Mitch Kupchak, will he do the thing that he has not done in season this entire
anything
time?
The thing that he has not done
it
is
always
anything.
comes back to do something.
Just do one thing.
You need to get a stick from outside and become the meme in person, because it always comes back to do something.
Do something.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
I always laugh at that one. You can hear the pain in Doug's voice with the do something, high pitch, pain filled. And that's what it means to be a Hornets fan right now. But let's get to the bench, though, right? Let's try to focus on some positive stuff here, because we just got the chat. We got some of the comments there in the live chat. Kai Jones, JT Thor, some rookies from last year that we were hoping could take a step up this season. Haven't really seen it overall, but we did get to see them play some minutes tonight. What did you make of their performance, Doug?
I thought Nick Richards stepped in really well. He was 6 of 6 from the field, 13 points, 9 rebounds. I thought, this one was about rebounding. I think they allowed too many offensive rebounds in that second quarter, so it was about how are they going to respond out of that second half. Because, look, they get the win here, 113 to 103 against an injured Pistons team that is clearly tanking at this point. They're not concerned with winning basketball games, and yet there were times when this thing looked a little too close to call. It was, 4-point game, 6-point game. The Hornets would go up 16, and then all of a sudden it'd be a 4-point game again. So they finally settled down, got some rebounds, and Nick Richards was a big part of that. He looked physical. So was Kai Jones. One thing I love about Kai Jones, at least lately, when I've been watching him in the few minutes that he gets, when the ball goes up in the air, he's looking for a guy to put his body on. And that's really what I'm asking from so many of these players, from PJ Washington, from Mark Williams especially. Like, when the ball goes up, it's that half second that you have that you need to be spending looking for someone to hit. When Steve Clifford talks about hitting someone first, that's what Kai Jones is out there trying to do. And it's going to be really important for him as he looks to carve out a role in the rotation next season. He's got to do some of these things that Steve Clifford is asking this team to do.
Yeah, it's one of the more, if you're learning how to play, and Kai Jones picking this game up so late, especially making that transition into the NBA, you would think it's one of the easier things just within a simple goal to go find somebody to block out. As far as rotating the correct way on defense, that provides some nuance that might take a little time, right? Offensively, learning how to find yourself, right? Learning how to figure out what your role should be offensively, where still the pull-up shots that he'll take every once in a while, they don't look fluid. They don't look natural, and sometimes he'll hit them, but, for a large portion, he won't. going to block somebody out, that's one where it might not be the right guy, but at least looking for the player to block out at that point, that's something you can do. And you're right. Like, at least Kai is, okay, this is something I can do right now. Let me go find that assignment and make sure he does not get the rebound.
And it wasn't just rebounding. Kai Jones at the beginning of that fourth quarter was absolutely haunting Jalen Duren. I mean, he was poking it away. He was challenging shots. I'm not sure. Let's see if he was credited with an actual block in this game. Yeah, one block shot, but he challenged multiple shots from Jalen Duren. Duren's going to be having nightmares about Kai Jones' length, and I think it's important to point out that, hey, Kai did well in this game, and he got to play center. You know, I mean, he struggled a lot because he's been playing 4 out of position. He should be playing center, but because of, you know, the situation at the center position, he has not gotten much time there. And I think he needs to be given more of a look. He's got to continue to improve certain things like his, I think, decision with the ball in his hands. He had a transition opportunity that looked super awkward. He did get fouled on it, so it didn't go poorly, but it had every opportunity to go poorly. So he still has to work on some decision-making with the ball in his hands and build up his overall physique. And obviously, if he could shoot from 3, that would help carve out, you know, or at least make the decision to play him a little bit easier. But, you know, got an opportunity here, played well. That's really all you can ask for, especially late in the season. And if Mark is going to miss more time, Kai's going to get a real look.
PJ Washington, I thought he was good tonight, and he didn't have the 3-ball going for him. You know, he was 1 of 5 from 3, but how about 5 stocks, 3 blocks, 2 steals? And the interesting thing here is that he had 11 free throw attempts. Doug, I was digging deep just real quickly in the game log each season for PJ Washington. It is the second most amount of free throw attempts he's ever taken in his entire career. So he had 13 free throw attempts in a game against Atlanta. His rookie season had posted 8 and 8 each of the last 2 years as a career high for free throw attempts. And so this game, 11, that is the second most. And so I just thought that kind of spoke to the physicality of what PJ brought in this game against Detroit, shooting all of those shots from the charity stripe, still shooting, 50% from 2-point range, maybe a little under that, and scoring 20 points. So PJ, especially right out the gate, I think Del Curry mentioned a stat, like this is the 3rd straight game.
Yeah.
He scored the first bucket for Charlotte. Still trending up. You know, that was good to see. Post-injury, you know, to see him come back where he left off, right? Still trending up on the PJ coaster.
Well, if you're going to invest a lot of money in him in the offseason, you'd like to invest it knowing that he has versatility. I think we have some idea that he has versatility defensively. We know, I mean, we've seen him shut down Jimmy Butler. We've seen him challenge Giannis Antetokounmpo and make life difficult for him. You know, Right, Julius Randle, another great example. So we know that the versatility exists on the defensive end. I think there are still some questions about that versatility extending to the offensive end of the floor. I don't know if you caught this, but in the first quarter, they actually gave him a post-up possession. He looked like a little baby owl on the right block, spinning back towards the lane and knocking down a shot. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's what, you know, if you're talking about things that you're looking for the rest of the way, you know, utilizing PJ Washington in a variety of roles and seeing where he's going to be successful and where he still needs work, I think is an important piece of evaluation that you need to do before you whip out the checkbook and put your signature down.
Yeah, as we start to shift focus from LaMelo, what things are worth paying attention to? We mentioned it with the contract players, I believe, you know, either yesterday or 2 shows ago, but PJ was one of those guys. And so, again, trending up there.
Can I give you another guy?
Sure, yeah.
DSJ was amazing in this game.
Yeah,
was awesome. People are going to I don't know that people were even watching this game because there was a ton of college basketball. I had 3 screens going. I'm watching Nick Smith Jr. Play for Arkansas. You know, he could possibly be a 6th overall pick if the Hornets fall back. I'm watching, you know, a ton of college basketball, and then I've got the Hornets game up. So I'm over here ODing on basketball like everybody else. So I'm not sure how many people are paying attention and who are paying attention generally to what's going on. But Dennis Smith Jr. has been awesome, and I think people look and they go 23 minutes, 14 points, you know, meh. But 7 of 10 shooting. He was always putting in buckets when they needed to. The layups that he's hitting are just outstanding. And
he's the layup god, man. And he was that at the very beginning of the year. Except now he's adding dunks to it. It's only been the second half of the season where he's providing the same dunks that he did when he was dunk contest worthy. He was not doing that in the first half of the year, but now he's feeling great.
Right. And it's evident that when he came back, that ankle was still bothering him. It was limiting him, and now it's not. And you're seeing the DSJ, like you said, that we saw early in the season that was fully healthy. So 14 points, he had 3 steals. One of them, he overplayed Duren and dove for a steal. Like, I mean, he's doing everything that you want him to do. And I'll just say this. If the Hornets don't extend this guy a contract, to me, that would prove that they're not really focused on winning. And I couldn't justify someone buying season tickets if they don't attempt. Now, DSJ could say, forget it, I want to go somewhere else. That's fine. But if they don't attempt to sign this guy, then I don't know what we're doing.
Doug, it's one of those things that almost the Hornets are gaslighting me if they don't do this because what happens is they do these little moves that just in a vacuum are not going to make or break a franchise. Not bringing Dennis Smith Jr. back is not going to destroy the franchise. That is crazy. But when they make these moves where the guy comes in, plays his bleep off, gives you 3 steals against Detroit, still works his bleep off offensively, still trying to figure it out, actually does provide you some offensive ability, handling the basketball, and playing excellent defense, buying in. I went to the Spectrum Center the other day. It was just me going there to get that one-on-one interview with Bryce McGowan's. A couple players walking by saying what's up, right? All of them are nice enough. Dennis Smith Jr. makes it a point, playing music on his phone, chilling. He's in a good mood. He comes to me, and then he comes to I forget who else was in there right next to me, but he comes to say, hey, what's up, man? Fist bumps me, daps me up. Like, just embracing everything around him. It's that kind of thing, not bringing that guy back that buys into the culture, that shows it. You just make bad business decisions, even in small little portions. Okay. The death by paper cuts thing, like, that's the thing that sucks. And so I'm totally with you, Doug.
That's fine, but are we certain he didn't think you were Svi Mikhailuk?
Do you think? No, there's no way he thought I was Fee. Look, I think he would have thought I was Gordon more than I was Fee. Like, as far as the lookalikes go, I don't know if I could be Fee.
I'm saying he doesn't even know what Svi Mikhailuk looks like. He's just assuming that you're Svi Mikhailuk. Although I'll say, like, Svi Mikhailuk, I don't know why, but Svi Mikhailuk always looks like he's just been released from a Turkish prison. I don't know what's going on there, but Svi.
Goodness.
What I mean, it's just. I'm just telling you what my eyeballs are seeing. I'm scouting. This is what I'm doing.
All right, tell me what your eyeballs are seeing in the chat before we go to the last segment. What you got?
Okay, in the chat, we've got JC back on the chat saying, well, speaking of Svi, why is Mikhailuk getting minutes over Bryce? I really don't get the investment in Mikhailuk when Bryce is your future.
He got 17 minutes. It's not, I mean, I guess that's true. I guess I'd rather have Bryce get 25, but it's not like Bryce didn't play, so.
No, and Bryce hit a corner 3. Only had 1 attempt in the game, but knocked it down. Did get to the line 1 time, 1 of 2 from the line. But nice to see him. It's going to be a process for him. It's long-term for Bryce. Yeah, I'm not worried about it. 17 minutes.
And the other thing, too, how much does bad basketball, not that he played bad basketball, but how much does allowing a guy to stay out there while playing bad basketball hurt, right? Like, again, not that he was doing that, but 17 minutes, I'm cool with it. I'm not.
Well, and also, I mean, I think to me the bigger problem is not that Svi Mikhailuk got 7 minutes and 45 seconds. It's that when Bryce is out there, he's, it's cross country. It's not, it's just running back up and forth down the court because look, they want to win basketball games right now, and for them, that means Terry Rozier takes 22 shots. That means Kelly Oubre takes 16 shots. It means Gordon Hayward takes 9 shots. You'd like to see him hit more than 1. This was a nightmare game for Gordon. 1 of 9 from the field, 2 points, does get 6 assists and 5 rebounds. But after a string of really good games for Hayward, including a big performance in that win over New York, he puts a dud on the board.
Let's go look at a few more comments in the next segment. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Doug was watching Arkansas, paying attention to Nick Smith, also paying attention to Keontae George. So maybe we can talk a little bit more about the prospects the Hornets might be looking at if they get in that 5 or 6 range come lottery time. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's post All-Star break. The season's winding down, but you still have time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet does not win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, it's secure, it's super easy to use. And then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores, and even bet on threes drained. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Last segment coming up next, Locked On Hornets.
This is Locked On Hornets.
Golden State spent almost a minuscule amount of time with 0 of their starters out on the floor. They had at least one out there the entire time.
Yeah, 4 Hall of Famers.
Yeah, they do. And so
you just put them anywhere.
You just have one out there.
Stack them up.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
All right, Doug, you don't have any mock drafts for us, but you have prospects for us, which is still okay. It still fits the draft theme. You were watching Nick Smith. You had some nice words to say about Keontae George. Why don't you lead the way on some of those players that the Hornets could be looking at?
Well, Nick Smith hit a big shot in that game against Auburn. That was a close game. Looked like Arkansas was going to run away with it, and then Auburn made a big comeback, but Nick Smith hit a big shot, and that's what you're looking for. I mean, he hasn't played much this season. He's been dealing with injuries. There's going to be big questions about the health of that knee, but at least for one night, he gets to have a big performance. There are a couple of guys that'll be interesting to watch for that 4 pick. I mean, obviously Brandon Miller is still playing for Alabama. They're going to be a #1 seed. You've got Nick Smith Jr. Looking healthy. You've got Cam Whitmore playing for UConn. Grady Dick, amazing name. I'm not sure that he's going to jump up into the top 5 conversation. But the Hornets, I was looking at the draft odds again, and you can find all of these draft odds, by the way, on Every Hornets Boxscore.com, my draft hub page that I just put up for paid subscribers right now. I'll open it up to everyone. It's kind of an evolving document. I'm adding to it every day, and once I get finished with it closer to draft time, I'll open it up to everybody. But on there are the draft odds. The Hornets have an 11.4% chance at the 4th pick, which is they have the 4th worst record in the NBA right now. But they have a 25.7% chance at getting the 6th pick. So, so if you add up all of the top 4, it ends up being like nearly 50% odds at getting a top 4 pick. They also have 25% odds at getting that 6th pick. So you have to be looking at guys like Cam Whitmore, Nick Smith Jr., Grady Dick, Keontae George, who I did get a chance to look at a little bit today against Baylor, and he looks like a bigger, stronger James Bouknight kind of Bradley Beal sort of prospect. And, I think the Hornets should be evaluating the 2-guard position for the future, if not even necessarily for next season, just for the future. And I think Keontae George is another interesting prospect as well.
Yeah, I think Nada likes Keontae George too, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's a big Cam Whitmore guy as well. And so you have Keontae as somebody that I talked about defensively, coming from that Baylor system that, when we watch the NCAA tournament, I know a lot of people really like Davion Mitchell. Not that he's doing a great job right now with Sacramento, but you have that same mold of having the defensive mentality. Offensively, you got some polish with George. So we'll see if that starts to transition into the NBA if the Hornets are looking at him. You mentioned Nick Smith, long time considered like the 3rd guy outside of Wemby and Scoot. Right. And because of the injuries, because of a lot of the other really good players that have just been climbing the ladder, it's pushed Nick Smith down, but could be a steal, quote unquote, at 5 or 6, given his initial 3rd prospect status. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think Miller put up just gaudy numbers at Alabama, and I think that pushed Smith down, the injuries. And then I think people were waiting to see, are the Thompson twins legit? And you're going to find people who fall on either side of that camp. But I think the Thompson twins in Overtime Elite put enough highlights together where you go, okay, that's especially Amen. I think Osar might fall back to 9-10, but Amen certainly, I think, made a case to be in the top 5, so that's going to push his stock down. Going back to George, though, you're totally right. I think people are going to hear that James Bouknight comparison and get the wrong impression. He reminds me of Bouknight, again, a stronger Bouknight, but just size-wise and game-wise on the offensive end. But you're totally right. In that game that I watched today, his defense really jumps off the screen. He's active on ball. He's active off ball, and then on ball, he's an absolute pest. But off ball, he's still trying to shade. He was doing some great ball denial all through that game. He's a guy that, I think Baylor feels confident enough to put Keontae George on the best opposing offensive player, and that should be exciting if the Hornets do fall back in the draft a little bit and feel like Keontae George is the pick at 5 or 6.
Well, and I love the idea of what Keontae George is, and you might think he's too short, and fair criticism, but who cares with LaMelo, right? Just put Keontae on the point guard and then put LaMelo somewhere else, and boom, you're good to go. When you have a 6'7", 6'8" guy that hopefully can also develop his defensive game as his career goes on.
We're diving in, but see, I love it. You're with me now. I think you were dipping your toe in the draft pool a little bit, but I feel like now that the conference tourneys are kicking off, you're ready to go. You are diving in with me.
I am Macaulay Culkin at the hotel in New York City asking everybody else around the pool if I can do a cannonball. That's what I'm doing right now into draft, and this is what I'm doing the rest of the way, given where the Hornets are. Do you want to talk about some comments? Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about prospects, or do you want to go to the live chat?
Let's go to the live chat. We got some people popping on now. Joseph saying, with the win, are they at least in the 1 and 2 spot at the draft? I mean, they're secured in the 4th spot. I don't really see them moving at all from that spot the rest of the way. And
unless the Magic decide that they want to get in on this thing, I guess that's a shot. I'm with you. I think they are cemented, but it's not like it's crazy to see the Magic come all the way down. That's
no. And look, I think Mark has been a big reason why they've been able to get the few wins that they've been able to acquire. If they're going to be missing him, this thing gets even more difficult, and they were struggling to pull away from the Pistons. Yes, Gordon Hayward, as I mentioned in that second segment, had a nightmare game, but I think you're going to see a lot more games where Terry has a bad game or Kelly has a bad game, and because both of those guys, I thought, neither of them had a nightmare game. It wasn't like a crazy efficient game for either, but Kelly was knocking down big shots, especially late. And Terry hit a big 3 to close out to help that 9-2 run to end the first half to help pull the lead back to 9. So, there are going to be nights though when that doesn't happen, and it's going to be against way better competition. I mean, Detroit, it's like a top tier college team that they're throwing out there right now, and the Hornets were really barely able to make this thing double digits. So,
well, just real quickly, a standings check. The Magic are up 5.5 games right now. The Magic have also lost 3 straight. The Hornets have won 2 straight. So going the exact opposite direction.
Well, yeah, it's not impossible. What I'm saying is
I'm with you.
The competition's getting tougher.
100%. All right. What else do you have for us in the live chat?
Queen City Hornets said Detroit had 11 turnovers to our 0 towards the end of the first. Yeah, that's right. And really, you look at those offensive rebounds that they had in the second quarter in the first half in general, and they were pulling ahead in the second chance points battle, and that typically is a bad sign for the Hornets. But because Detroit was incompetent offensively, like they were embarrassing offensively, it was able to keep the Hornets in the lead. So Queen City Hornets goes on to say, we are trying to win while these other teams aren't. We're going to get number 1 pick. I'm speaking it into existence. There we go. Put it out into the universe. That's what I like. Calvin saying, I think we need 3 and D, 6-7 next to LaMelo. Yeah, I mean, there are certainly a couple of opportunities to take that kind of player. I mean, I think Amen, if they're in that position, Scoot's not 6'7", he's 6'2". I mean, that's one big knock on Scoot is his size, but Amen is 6'7", 200 pounds with a 6'9" wingspan. I mean, he's got the body, insane athlete, speedy ball handler, elite defender. I mean, he can't shoot, but LaMelo can shoot. Who needs a shooter there?
I'm with it.
I'm diving all the way in, baby.
Yeah, I was about to say, you really are. All right, that'll do it for the live chat, the Hive Live here. Locked On Hornets finishing up. We appreciate you making us your first listen. Make your second listen, Game to Game NBA. You can catch analysis on every contest across the association on Locked On NBA, Game to Game NBA as well here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Anywhere you get your pods, by the way, Odyssey, YouTube, again, whatever platform you listen to your podcast on. Have a great weekend. We'll be back with you on Monday.